Dr. Kim Tae-ho pressed his face against the shuttle window as the massive space station came into view. The structure was bigger than any city he had ever seen. Metal arms stretched out in all directions like a giant spider floating in space. Lights blinked along its surface like stars, and ships moved in and out of docking bays that looked like tiny dots from this distance. "First time seeing the Kepler Medical Station?" asked the pilot, a blue-skinned alien with 4 arms, who spoke perfect English through a translation device. "Yes," Tae-ho replied, still amazed by the sight. "I knew it was big, but this is incredible." The pilot made a sound that might have been laughter. "Wait until you see the inside. The medical bay alone is larger than most planets' entire hospitals." As their shuttle moved closer, Tae-ho could see the true size of the station. It was not just big, it was enormous. The docking bay they entered could have held 50 Earth hospitals inside it. Ships from dozens of different worlds sat in neat rows, each one designed by a different species with different ideas about what a spaceship should look like. Tae-ho gathered his bags and followed the crowd of beings walking through the station corridors. He was the only human in sight, which made him feel very small and alone. The aliens around him came in every shape and size he could imagine. Some walked on 2 legs like him, others had 4 or 6 or 8. Some were tall and thin, others were short and wide. A few floated above the ground without any legs at all. The walls of the station were covered with signs in hundreds of different languages. Thankfully, his translation device could read most of them. Arrows pointed toward different sections: Surgical Bay 7, Parasite Removal Center, War Beast Recovery Ward, and dozens of others. "Dr. Kim Tae-ho." A voice called out behind him. He turned to see a young woman hurrying toward him. She was human, which was a relief. Her black hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore the same white medical uniform that had been sent to him before his trip. "I'm Lee So-young," she said, slightly out of breath. "I'm your research assistant." "Sorry, I'm Lee. Got lost trying to find the shuttle bay. This place is like a maze." "Nice to meet you," Tae-ho said, shaking her hand. "And don't worry about being late. I'm just glad to see another human face." So-young smiled. "I know what you mean. I've been here for 2 weeks already, and I still feel lost most of the time. Come on, let me show you to your quarters first, then we can start the tour." They walked through corridor after corridor, passing aliens of every type. Tae-ho noticed that many of them stared at him as he passed. Some seemed curious, others looked almost amused. A few ignored him completely. "Do they always stare like that?" he asked So-young quietly. "You'll get used to it," she replied. "Humans are still pretty new here. Most of them have never seen one of us before. We're only the 3rd and 4th humans to ever visit this station." They reached his room, which was small but comfortable. The bed was the right size for a human, and the bathroom had been modified with human-friendly fixtures. Someone had clearly done their homework. "The aliens are very good at making spaces comfortable for visiting species," So-young explained. "They've had thousands of years of practice." After Tae-ho put away his things, So-young led him on a tour of the medical facilities. The first stop was the main treatment center, and Tae-ho's jaw dropped when they entered. The room was the size of a football stadium, with a ceiling so high he could barely see it. Hundreds of medical beds were arranged in neat sections, each one surrounded by equipment that looked like it came from a science fiction movie. But what really caught his attention were the patients. In one section, creatures the size of elephants lay on massive beds. They had thick, gray skin covered in what looked like natural armor. Multiple tubes connected to different parts of their bodies, and machines beeped and hummed around them. "War beasts from the Rigel system," So-young explained. "They're used in battles on planets with heavy gravity. When they get injured, they bring them here for treatment." Tae-ho watched as alien doctors worked on one of the creatures. They moved with incredible skill, using tools that seemed to repair damaged tissue instantly. Within minutes, a wound that would have been fatal on Earth was completely healed. "That's amazing," he whispered. "Wait, it gets better," So-young said, leading him to another section. Here, smaller aliens floated in tanks filled with a clear liquid. They looked like jellyfish, but with more complex internal structures. Tae-ho could see tiny robotic arms working inside the tanks, carefully removing small, dark objects from inside the floating creatures. "Parasites," So-young explained. "These beings live in the gas clouds around Jupiter-type planets. They sometimes pick up parasites that feed on their energy. The robots can remove the parasites without harming the host." They moved through section after section. Tae-ho saw aliens being treated for injuries he couldn't even understand. Some had injuries to organs that didn't exist in humans. Others were being treated for diseases that affected their ability to change color or communicate telepathically. The technology was beyond anything Earth had ever developed. Machines could regrow lost limbs in hours. Devices could repair brain damage that would be permanent on Earth. Some equipment could even bring recently dead patients back to life. "This is incredible," Tae-ho said as they finished the tour. "The level of medical technology here is thousands of years ahead of anything we have on Earth." So-young nodded, but her expression was less excited than his. "Yes, it is incredible. but that's also part of the problem. What do you mean? You'll see tomorrow, when we meet with the medical council. They're very impressed with their own abilities, and they've agreed to meet with us about human medical needs. She paused, looking uncomfortable. But what? Well, let's just say they don't think there's much they need to learn about treating humans. According to their files, we're classified as a basic biological species with simple medical needs. Taeho frowned. Simple medical needs. What does that mean? It means they think treating humans is easy compared to treating war beasts or removing parasites. They think our bodies are straightforward and that most of our medical problems can be solved with basic treatments. As they walked back toward his quarters, Taeho thought about what he had seen. The aliens could heal creatures with multiple hearts and armor like skin. They could perform surgery on beings that lived in gas clouds. They had technology that seemed like magic compared to Earth medicine. But something bothered him about Soyoung's words. If the aliens thought humans were so simple to treat, why were there still so many diseases on Earth that doctors couldn't cure? Why did people still die from cancer, heart disease, and other conditions that Earth's best doctors couldn't fix? Soyoung, he said, as they reached his door, have they actually tried treating any humans yet? She shook her head. No, you're here to present our medical data to them first. They want to understand human biology before they decide what treatments to offer us. And they've already decided we're simple. According to their classification system, yes, they've studied our basic biology from the data Earth sent them years ago. Based on that, they've put us in the same category as dozens of other species they consider, Taeho went to bed that night with mixed feelings. He was excited to be representing Earth at such an advanced medical facility, but he was also worried. If the aliens had already decided that humans were simple, would they really listen to what he had to say? And if they were wrong about humans being easy to treat, what would that mean for the people back on Earth who were counting on this partnership? Tomorrow, he would find out. 3 months had passed since Dr. Kim Taeho first arrived at the Kepler Medical Station. Every day, he tried to show the Alien Medical Council that humans were more complex than they believed. Every day, he was politely dismissed. The morning started like all the others. Taeho sat in the council chamber, a huge room with seats designed for dozens of different alien body types. At the center sat Dr. Velinari, the head of the medical council. She was a crystalline being who stood nearly 8 feet tall, with a body that looked like it was made of living glass. When she spoke, her voice sounded like wind chimes. Dr. Taeho, she said in her musical voice, we appreciate your continued presentations about human medical conditions. However, we must remind you that our analysis of human biology shows a very straightforward organic structure. Taeho pulled up his latest presentation on the holographic display. Dr. Velinari, I want to show you something called cancer. It's a disease where human cells begin to grow without control. These cells can spread throughout the body, and yes, interrupted another council member. A slug-like creature with 6 eyes. Cellular reproduction errors. We see this in many primitive species. A simple cellular regeneration treatment corrects this easily. But that's just it, Taeho said, trying to keep his voice calm. Cancer isn't simple. There are hundreds of different types, and they all behave differently. Some respond to certain treatments, others don't. Some come back even after treatment. It's not just broken cells, it's like the cells have learned how to survive and spread. Dr. Velinari made a sound that might have been a sigh. Dr. Taeho, you are thinking too complicatedly. What you describe is basic organic decay. We have treated similar conditions in the Altair species, the Vega colony beings, and 47 other carbon-based life forms. The solution is always the same. Restore cellular function to normal parameters. Lee Soyoung, who sat beside Taeho, leaned forward. But have you actually tried treating humans with these methods? There has been no need, said a third council member, a floating sphere covered in tentacles. The biological scans Earth provided show that humans fall into classification 7, stable primitive species. The same treatments that work on other classification 7 species will work on humans. Taeho felt frustrated. He had shown them data on heart disease, diabetes, mental illness, autoimmune disorders, and dozens of other conditions. Each time, the aliens nodded politely and explained that these were all simple problems they had solved many times before. The meeting ended the same way it always did. Dr. Velinari thanked him for his time and suggested he spend more time observing their treatment methods so he could learn how advanced medicine really worked. As Taeho and Soyoung walked back to their quarters, they were interrupted by an emergency announcement. A transport ship had crashed in the docking bay. There were injuries, including human crew members. They hurried to the medical bay, where chaos filled the air. The crashed ship was a cargo vessel that carried supplies between Earth and the outer colonies. Among the crew were 3 humans who had been badly hurt in the crash. Dr. Park Minho was already there. He was a trauma surgeon from Seoul who had arrived at the station just 2 weeks earlier as part of the Human Medical Exchange Program. Park was examining one of the injured humans while alien doctors prepared their equipment. How bad is it? Tejo asked. Bad, Park replied without looking up. Internal bleeding, possible spinal damage, and definitely some broken bones. This man needs surgery now. Dr. Velinari approached with two other alien doctors. Please step aside, Dr. Park. We will handle this with proper medical procedures. The alien medical team brought forward a large machine that hummed with energy. This is a cellular regeneration device, one of them explained. It will repair all damaged tissue and restore the patient to normal function. Wait, Park said, holding up his hand. You can't use that on him, not yet. You need to stabilize the internal bleeding first, and you need to be careful about the spinal injury. If you just regenerate all the tissue at once, Dr. Park, Dr. Velinari said firmly. We have used this treatment successfully on hundreds of species. Please allow us to demonstrate proper medical care. Before Park could stop them, they activated the machine. Energy flowed into the injured human's body. For a moment, it seemed to be working. Some of the external cuts began to heal, but then, the patient's vital signs started going crazy. The man began convulsing. His blood pressure spiked dangerously high. The monitors around his bed started screaming alarms. Turn it off, Park shouted, pushing past the alien doctors. You're killing him. Dr. Velinari looked confused. This is impossible. The treatment works on all organic beings. Park's hands moved quickly over the patient. He grabbed medical tools from the alien equipment and began working with practiced skill. His movements were precise and confident as he performed emergency surgery to stop the internal bleeding that the alien treatment had made worse. So-young, I need you to monitor his brain activity, Park called out. The spinal injury might have been aggravated. So-young quickly learned how to use the alien monitoring equipment. His brain waves are showing signs of trauma, but they're stabilizing. For the next 2 hours, Park worked to save the patient's life. He used a combination of human surgical techniques and alien medical tools. Slowly, the patient's condition improved. When it was over, the man was stable but still unconscious. Park sat down heavily in a chair, exhausted. Dr. Velinari approached slowly. We do not understand what happened. The cellular regeneration treatment has never failed before. Park looked up at her with tired eyes. It failed because you don't understand humans as well as you think you do. That machine tried to regenerate all his tissue at once, including the damaged blood vessels. When the vessels regenerated while he was still bleeding internally, it created pressure that nearly killed him. But our scans showed that humans have simple circulatory systems, another alien doctor said. Simple. Park laughed, but there was no humor in it. Human circulation isn't simple. It's a complex network that has to work perfectly with our nervous system, our immune system, and our endocrine system. Change one part too quickly, and the whole system can fail. Tejo watched as the alien doctors looked at each other with confusion. For the first time since he had arrived, they seemed uncertain. Dr. Park, Dr. Velinari said slowly, your surgical technique was quite effective. Where did you learn these procedures? Medical school, on Earth. Park replied. Every human doctor learns trauma surgery because human bodies are fragile and complicated. We have to understand exactly how everything works together, or our patients die. Over the next few days, the other two injured humans were treated using a combination of human surgical techniques and alien technology. Park insisted on doing the surgeries himself, with alien doctors assisting. Both patients recovered fully, but Tejo noticed that the alien doctors still talked about the incident, as if it had been unusual bad luck rather than a sign that they might be wrong about humans. They seemed to think that Park's success was just a coincidence. They're not going to change their minds easily, So-young said to Tejo one evening as they watched alien doctors continue their normal treatments on war beasts and parasitic infections. No, Tejo agreed. They've been successful for so long with their advanced technology that they can't imagine. There's something they don't understand. So what do we do? Tejo thought about it. We wait, and we keep learning. Sooner or later, they're going to face a medical problem that their technology can't solve. When that happens, maybe they'll be ready to listen. He had no idea how soon that day would come. The emergency alarm echoed through every corridor of the Kepler medical station. Dr. Kim Tejo had never heard anything like it before. The sound was not just loud, it carried a sense of panic that made his heart race. He found Lisa in the research lab, staring at a holographic display that showed star maps with flashing red dots. What's happening? He asked. Plague outbreak, she said, her voice tight with worry. It started in the mining colonies of the Tau Ceti system 3 days ago. Now it's spreading to other planets. Dr. Park Min-ho rushed into the lab, still wearing his surgical clothes. They're calling all medical personnel to an emergency meeting. This is bad, really bad. The three humans hurried to the main assembly hall, where hundreds of alien doctors and medical staff had gathered. Dr. Velinari stood at the center, her crystalline body glowing brighter than usual, a sign of stress. In her species, the situation is critical, she announced, her voice carrying clearly through the hall. A new disease has appeared in the Tau Ceti mining colonies. It affects multiple species simultaneously and appears to be spreading faster than any pathogen we have encountered before. A holographic display showed the affected areas. Red zones marked infected planets, and Tejo could see the red spreading outward like spilled blood across the star map. "What makes this disease so dangerous?" asked a tall, thin alien doctor. "It adapts," replied Dr. Velinari. "Every treatment we try works for a few hours, sometimes a few days. Then the disease changes and becomes resistant to the treatment. We have never seen anything like it." Another doctor, one that looked like a walking tree with eyes, spoke up. "Our best cellular regeneration treatments are useless. The disease destroys tissue faster than we can repair it. Antipathogen medications work briefly, then fail," added a floating jellyfish-like being. "It is as if the disease learns from our treatments and develops defenses against them." The meeting continued for hours as alien doctors reported failure after failure. Advanced treatments that had worked for thousands of years were useless against this new plague. The death toll was rising rapidly, and panic was spreading almost as fast as the disease itself. "We need fresh perspectives," Dr. Velinari finally announced. "All research teams will be given access to plague samples. Every medical mind on this station must work to find a solution." After the meeting, the human team returned to their lab to find that samples of the plague had already been delivered. The samples were contained in the most advanced isolation chambers the station had, surrounded by energy fields and warning signs in dozens of languages. "Well," Park said, looking at the sealed containers, "I guess we're officially part of the research effort now." Soyoung began running the samples through the alien analysis equipment. The results appeared on holographic displays around the lab. "Look at this," she said, pointing to the data. "The pathogen structure is incredibly complex." Tejo studied the information. The plague organism looked like nothing he had ever seen. It had characteristics of viruses, bacteria, and parasites all combined into one entity. But there was something else, something that looked almost artificial. "This doesn't look natural," he said slowly. "What do you mean?" Park asked. "Look at these genetic sequences." Tejo pointed to specific parts of the data. "They're too perfect, too organized. Natural evolution is messy, with lots of random elements. This looks like it was designed." Dr. Choi Hyjin arrived at their lab that afternoon. She was an epidemiologist from Busan who had been working on another part of the station. When the emergency began, her specialty was tracking how diseases spread through populations. "I've been studying the infection patterns," she said, bringing up her own holographic displays. "This plague isn't behaving like a natural disease. It's too smart." "What do you mean by smart?" Soyoung asked. "Natural diseases spread in predictable patterns based on population density, travel routes, and environmental factors. This plague seems to understand how to maximize its spread. It waits in some populations, then explodes when conditions are right. It targets specific organs that will cause the most disruption to each species." Park frowned. "You're talking about it like it's thinking." "That's exactly what I'm saying," Hyjin replied. "This plague behaves like it has intelligence." Over the next several days, the human team worked around the clock, studying the plague samples. They shared their lab space with alien research teams, but noticed that the aliens were struggling with concepts that seemed obvious to the humans. The alien doctors kept trying to find single treatments that would cure the plague completely. They built more advanced machines, developed more powerful medications, and created more sophisticated cellular repair systems. Every solution failed within days as the plague adapted. "They're thinking about this all wrong," Tejo said during one of their late-night research sessions. "How so?" Park asked. "They're treating it like a broken machine that needs to be fixed. But this plague isn't broken. It's working exactly as it was designed to work." Hyjin looked up from her data analysis. "You think it was created as a weapon?" "I'm sure of it," Tejo replied. "Look at these genetic markers. This plague has elements from diseases that exist on dozens of different worlds. No natural organism could evolve to affect so many different species so effectively. But who would create something like this?" Soyoung asked. "That's the wrong question," Hyjin said slowly. "The right question is, how do we fight something that was designed to be the perfect killer?" The human team spent the next week developing their theory. The plague was indeed artificial or biological weapon created by some unknown civilization. It had been designed to study its targets, adapt to their defenses, and maximize death rates across multiple species. But the more they studied it, the more familiar it began to seem to Tejo. "I've seen behavior patterns like this before," he said during another late-night session, where Park asked, "Earth, this plague reminds me of some of the worst diseases in human history. The way it spreads, the way it adapts, the way it targets different systems in the body. It's like someone took every terrible disease Earth has ever produced and combined them into one super plague." Hyjin nodded slowly. "That would make sense. If someone wanted to create the perfect biological weapon, they might study the most successful natural pathogens and copy their best features." "Which means," Soyoung said, understanding dawning in her voice, that humans might be the only species in the galaxy with experience fighting diseases this dangerous. The realization hit all of them at the same time. Earth had thrown everything it could at humanity over millions of years: ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroids, and countless plagues. Humans had survived by learning to adapt, to think creatively, and to fight back against impossible odds. The aliens, with their advanced technology, had never faced anything like this. They had machines that could heal any injury and cure any natural disease, but they had no experience fighting an enemy that could think and adapt as fast as they could. "We need to present this to the medical council," Tahoe said. "Will they listen?" Park asked. "They have to," Hyjin replied, "because if they don't, this plague is going to spread until it reaches the core worlds, and then millions more will die." The next morning, the human team requested an emergency meeting with Dr. Velinari and the medical council. They had data, theories, and most importantly, they had a plan. But first, they had to convince the most advanced medical minds in the galaxy that for humans from a primitive planet might know something they didn't. The future of multiple civilizations might depend on it. The emergency council chamber was packed with more alien doctors than Dr. Kim Tahoe had ever seen in one place. Representatives from dozens of species filled seats designed for their various body types. The air buzzed with translation devices, working in overdrive as beings communicated in hundreds of different languages. Dr. Velinari's crystalline body was dim with exhaustion. The plague had now spread to 17 different star systems, and nothing the Medical Alliance had tried was working. Desperation filled the room like a heavy cloud. "Dr. Tahoe," Dr. Velinari said, her voice lacking its usual musical quality. "You requested this emergency session. We hope you have something new to offer, because our conventional treatments continue to fail." Tahoe stood up, feeling the weight of hundreds of alien eyes watching him. Lee Soyoung, Dr. Park Minho, and Dr. Choi Hyjin sat beside him, their data displays ready. "Dr. Velinari, members of the council," Tahoe began, we understand why your treatments are failing. This plague was not created by nature, it was designed as a weapon." A ripple of surprised sounds echoed through the chamber. Several alien doctors began speaking at once, until Dr. Velinari called for silence. "Explain," she said simply. Dr. Choi Hyjin activated her holographic display, showing the plague's genetic structure. "This organism contains elements from diseases found on dozens of different worlds. No natural evolution could produce something this complex. Someone created this by studying the most dangerous pathogens in the galaxy and combining their deadliest features." "Even if that is true," said the slug-like council member, "how does this knowledge help us treat it?" Dr. Jae-won stood up. He was a military doctor who had arrived at the station just days before the plague outbreak. Unlike the others, he had not been trying to impress the aliens with human medical knowledge. Instead, he had been quietly observing and learning. "Members of the council," Jae-won said, "may I tell you about Earth?" Dr. Velinari looked confused. "We already know about Earth. It is a classification 7 planet with a stable primitive species." "No," Jae-won said firmly. "You know about current Earth. Let me tell you about the Earth that created humanity." He activated his own display, showing images and data about Earth's history. "Earth has tried to kill humans more times than any other planet has tried to kill any species in this galaxy." The images showed massive volcanic eruptions, ice ages that covered entire continents, asteroid impacts that blocked out the sun for years, and plague after plague that wiped out huge portions of the human population. "Every few thousand years, Earth throws something new at humanity," Jae-won continued. "Ice ages that last for thousands of years, volcanic eruptions that change the climate for decades, diseases that kill half the population, earthquakes, floods, droughts, famines. Earth has never stopped testing humans." "This is all very interesting," said the floating sphere with tentacles. "But how does this relate to medical treatment?" "Because humans survived," Jae-won said simply. "Every time Earth tried to kill us, some humans found a way to live through it, not because we were stronger than the disaster, but because we learned to adapt." Park stood up to support his colleague. "Let me show you what human adaptation looks like in practice." He brought up medical records from Earth, showing survival rates for various diseases and injuries. "When humans get sick, we don't just treat the symptoms. We study how the disease behaves, how it spreads, how it adapts to our treatments. Then we change our approach. We had a disease called tuberculosis that killed millions of humans," Soyoung added. "Every time we developed a treatment that worked, the disease evolved to resist it. So we learned to use multiple treatments at the same time, changing our approach before the disease could adapt." "You're describing inefficient medicine," said the tree-like alien doctor. "Our treatments eliminate diseases completely." "On diseases that don't fight back," Hyjin replied. "This plague fights back. It studies your treatments and develops defenses against them. You need to think like it's an enemy in a war, not a broken machine to be repaired." Dr. Velinari was quiet for a long moment. "Are you saying that humans have more experience with adaptive pathogens than we do?" We're saying that humans have experience with survival, J1 answered. Earth made us experts at fighting things that want to kill us. Tejo activated the final part of their presentation. Dr. Velinary, you can heal a war beast because you understand that it's a weapon designed for battle. You can remove parasites because you understand they're simple organisms looking for a host. But this plague is a weapon designed to kill, and it's fighting for its survival just like any living thing would. What are you proposing? Dr. Velinary asked. We propose treating this plague the way humans learn to treat our worst diseases, Park said. Not with one perfect cure, but with multiple treatments that we change before the plague can adapt to them. We call it combination therapy, Hyjin added. Hit the disease with several different attacks at once. When it adapts to one, switch to another. Keep it constantly off balance so it can't develop complete resistance. But your proposal requires accepting that our treatments will only work temporarily, said the slug-like council member. That goes against everything we know about proper medicine. Sometimes survival means accepting damage rather than preventing it. J1 said quietly, sometimes the best you can do is stay alive long enough to find a better solution. The council chamber fell silent. Tejo could see the alien doctors struggling with concepts that challenged everything they believed about medicine. You're asking us to practice medicine like we're fighting a war, Dr. Velinary said finally. Because you are fighting a war, Tejo replied, this plague was designed to be a perfect killer. You can't beat it by being a perfect healer, you have to outsmart it. Park pulled up additional data. Look at these survival rates from human populations that faced similar adaptive diseases. The communities that survived weren't the ones with the best medicine, they were the ones that could change their approach fastest. We can show you techniques that human field medics use when they don't have perfect equipment, So Young offered, ways to treat patients when you have to improvise, adapt, and make do with whatever works. These are not advanced medical techniques, the tree-like doctor protested. No, J1 agreed, they're survival techniques. Sometimes that's more important than being advanced. Dr. Velinary looked around at her fellow council members. Tejo could see doubt and uncertainty in their body language emotions. Advanced beings rarely experienced. The death toll is approaching 1 million beings across 17 star systems, she said slowly. Our most advanced treatments have failed completely. She paused, her crystalline body flickering with internal light as she processed this difficult decision. Dr. Tejo, Dr. Park, Dr. Choi, Dr. An, she said finally, the Galactic Medical Alliance formally requests your assistance in developing treatment protocols for this plague. We are prepared to implement any methods you recommend, even if they go against your standard medical practices. Tejo asked. Even then, Dr. Velinary replied, if human survival techniques can save lives that our advanced medicine cannot, then perhaps we have something to learn from Earth's apex predators after all. For the first time since arriving at the station, Tejo felt like the aliens were finally ready to listen to what humans had to say. But now came the hard part, proving that Earth's most dangerous species had learned something valuable from being hunted by their own planet for millions of years. 6 months after the plague outbreak began, Dr. Kim Tejo stood in the same council chamber where he had once been dismissed as a representative of a primitive species. Today, the chamber looked very different. Instead of aliens sitting in neat rows, listening to presentations about advanced medical technology, doctors from dozens of species worked together at portable stations, implementing what had become known as adaptive survival medicine. The transformation had not been easy or quick. The first breakthrough came when Dr. Park Min-ho demonstrated emergency field surgery on plague victims. Instead of waiting for perfect diagnostic equipment, he taught alien doctors how to work with incomplete information and make rapid decisions based on what they could observe directly. In human emergency medicine, we don't have time to run every test, Park had explained to a group of alien surgeons. We learn to read the patient's body language, listen to their breathing, feel their pulse. The body tells you what's wrong if you know how to pay attention. Dr. Choi Hyjin developed the combination therapy protocols that finally began to slow the plague spread. Rather than searching for one perfect cure, she created treatment plans that used multiple approaches simultaneously and changed them regularly before the plague could adapt. Think of it like a dance, she told the medical teams. The plague learns your moves, so you change the steps. It adapts to your rhythm, so you change the music. You stay one step ahead by never doing the same thing twice. But the real breakthrough came from Dr. An Jae-won's insight about controlled exposure therapy. This plague spreads by overwhelming the immune system, he explained during one of the treatment planning sessions. Instead of trying to prevent all exposure, we expose patients to very small amounts of the plague under controlled conditions. Their immune systems learn to recognize and fight it. Dr. Velinary had been horrified by the suggestion. If you want to deliberately infect patients with the disease, in tiny amounts, with full medical support ready, J1 replied, it's like training soldiers for battle. You don't send them into war without letting them practice fighting first. This goes against every medical principle we know, the slug-like council member had protested. Your medical principles work great when you're dealing with normal diseases, Lee So-young had responded, but this plague was designed to beat normal medicine. Sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. The controlled exposure therapy was the key that finally turned the tide. Instead of trying to create perfect sterile environments, the human team taught alien doctors how to manage controlled infections that trained each species' immune system to recognize and fight the plague. The process was messy, imperfect, and sometimes dangerous. Some patients got sicker before they got better. Some treatments failed and had to be changed quickly. It was nothing like the clean, precise medicine the aliens were used to, but it worked. Within 3 months, the plague's spread had slowed dramatically. Within 6 months, it was completely contained. The final death toll was still in the millions, but it could have been much worse. Now, Taeho watched as alien doctors worked alongside human medical teams, learning techniques that had nothing to do with advanced technology and everything to do with adaptation and survival. Dr. Velinari approached him as he observed the ongoing work. Her crystalline body was brighter than he had ever seen, a sign of excitement and energy in her species. Dr. Taeho, she said, the Galactic Medical Alliance Council has made a decision regarding humanity's classification. Oh, Taeho replied, though he had expected this conversation for weeks. Humans are no longer classified as a stable primitive species. She announced, you have been reclassified as apex adaptive survivors, a new category we created specifically for species that have survived their home planet's most extreme challenges through intelligence and adaptability rather than evolution or technology. Taeho smiled. What does that mean? Practically speaking, it means that human medical knowledge is now considered essential for dealing with adaptive threats. Dr. Velinari explained, we are requesting that Earth establish permanent medical teaching positions here at the station and at facilities throughout the galaxy. Teaching positions, human doctors will teach other species how to practice adaptive survival medicine. Not every medical problem can be solved with advanced technology, as we have learned. Sometimes the most sophisticated solution is understanding how to endure, adapt, and survive against impossible odds. Over the following weeks, Taeho watched as the entire structure of galactic medicine began to change. Alien medical schools started teaching courses on imperfect medicine, how to treat patients when you don't have complete information or perfect equipment. Emergency response teams learned field medicine techniques that emphasized quick thinking over advanced tools. Dr. Park found himself teaching surgery classes to aliens who had never imagined that healing could require such direct hands-on work. Advanced machines are wonderful, he told his students, but sometimes the most important medical tool is a doctor who knows how to use their hands and trust their instincts. Dr. Choi Hyejin became the director of a new department focused on adaptive pathogen research. Instead of trying to develop perfect cures for diseases, her team worked on creating flexible response systems that could adapt to new threats as they appeared. Dr. An Jae-won established the galaxy's first survival medicine training center, where doctors from across known space learned how to treat patients in disaster situations, hostile environments, and resource-limited conditions. And Lee So-young became the head of a new research initiative studying what other primitive species might have valuable knowledge that advanced civilizations had overlooked. But perhaps the most significant change was in how the aliens viewed medicine itself. They began to understand that healing was not just about having the right technology, it was about understanding the relationship between survival, adaptation, and the will to live. 6 months later, Taeho received a call from Earth. There had been an outbreak of a new strain of influenza that was resistant to all conventional treatments. Would he and his team be willing to return home to help develop adaptive treatment protocols? Of course, he told the caller, but we're bringing some friends with us. The friends turned out to be a team of alien doctors who wanted to learn more about how Earth had created such resilient survivors. They were particularly interested in studying humanity's historical responses to plagues, famines, and natural disasters. The final scene that would stay with Taeho forever happened on his last day at the Kepler Medical Station. He was walking through the medical bay when he saw Lee So-young working with a team of alien doctors to treat an injured war beast from the Rigel system. But instead of using only advanced alien technology, they were combining it with techniques that So-young had learned from veterinarians in rural Korea. She was teaching the aliens how to read the creature's body language, how to understand its stress responses, and how to adapt their treatment based on the animal's individual needs, rather than just its species classification. The key is remembering that every patient is fighting to survive, So-young was explaining to her alien colleagues. Your job is not to fight the battle for them, but to give them the tools and support they need to win the fight themselves. As Taeho watched, he realized that this was what humanity had always been about. Not conquering their enemies or building the most advanced technology, but learning how to survive, adapt, and help others do the same. Earth's apex predators had never been the strongest or the fastest or the most advanced. They had simply been the most determined to survive, no matter what the universe threw at them, and now, they were teaching the rest of the galaxy how to do the same. The transport ship that would take Taeho back to Earth was preparing to depart. As he gathered his belongings, he received a final message from Dr. Dr. Taeho, the message said, "Thank you for teaching us that sometimes the most sophisticated medical knowledge comes not from having all the answers, but from knowing how to keep fighting when you don't." Taeho smiled as he boarded the ship. Humanity had finally found its place in the galactic community, not as students learning from more advanced species, but as teachers sharing the hard-won wisdom of survivors who had learned to turn every challenge into strength.